Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But right now we are on Indie Intermission, and we are covering I Hunt by Olivia Hill. But before we get into that, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Okay, so I read another volume of Lumberjanes. Everyone get that for your kids. So cute.
Or for yourself, if you want to like have cute moments.
If you just turned 30 and want to read a 4th grade reading level.
Who does it?
I mean, friendship to the max. So that's all I'll say. I also read a volume of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that was recommended to me by one of my friends on Bookstagram. And what a blast from the past, because I used to watch that growing up.
Same.
And it was actually really fun, and I was like, I think I'm gonna get another volume of it to read.
I love this journey for you.
But Jones in the Books on Instagram, he was reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I used to love Power Rangers. And he's like, you should get them. They're actually really fun, and I look forward to reading them all the time now because they release new volumes pretty often. So
that's amazing.
I started reading one, and he was right. I really did enjoy it. So yes.
The chokehold that Power Rangers had on my childhood cannot be stated.
What was your favorite Power Ranger?
The pink one, obviously.
I mean, yeah. Same.
And Kimberly and Tommy forever.
Tommy.
The amount of times she screamed Tommy, and like even as a young child, I knew that was something to mock. Like she was a fully capable adult person. Well, no, she wasn't an adult.
But I mean, they're high schoolers.
They're high schoolers who turn into mighty morphing Power Ranger ninjas. And the amount of time she still needed Tommy to save her was way too often and very sexist.
I mean, yes.
Yes. I also remember, didn't they get rid of her? I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast before. I feel like we have. If we have, I'm sorry, we're treading over.
I cannot remember much about this show, but when I was reading this volume of this, I was like, oh, this is all coming back to me now. And I kind of want to watch the show again, like not as like a serious I want to watch this, but as like I need to make fun of this.
I just remember that she got written off the show because they had, she wanted to leave the show. That's why she actually got written off the show. Mm-hmm. But the person they brought on instead of her was supposed to be an evil person, and she could turn into a cat, and her name was Cat because they were very clever on that show. And then somehow Cat caused Kimberly to fall off a balance beam. And then she had, and I swear that was the reason they had her leave the show. Kimberly got injured on balance beam, so cannot be here anymore. And I'm like, the logical leaps that doesn't make sense.
She never recovered.
She never recovered from falling off a balance beam. So that is something I very specifically remember. I may be misremembering it. So people who were huge fans of Power Rangers, let me know how Kimberly got written off. And I remember being so mad. And I also know, I swear we've talked about this on the podcast because I specifically shared the core memory that my friend, to this day, will bring up the fact that I always made her be the yellow Power Ranger. Yeah. Yep. See, I knew we had brought it up.
We had talked about this.
Power Rangers was very important in both our lives, and Kimberly and Tommy forever.
I mean, I never remember acting them out or anything, but I remember watching the show, and I definitely wanted to be the Pink Power Ranger.
I mean, everyone wanted to be the Pink Power Ranger.
Yeah. I also read Good Talk by Mira Jacob.
Oh yeah, you loved amazing. That. You said you cried.
Yeah, several times. I mean, everyone should read it. Everyone should read it. I think it's just a really good. First of all, it's very creative the way that this graphic novel is done, because it's all just conversations that the author has with people in her life, like her son or her husband or her in-laws or friends. So it's interesting from that aspect of writing a book that way, because if I were to write a book about my conversations, people would be like, this woman is an idiot. And why does she have so many random thoughts? No one cares about these conversations. But her conversations are so deep and reflective of the situation that was the 2016 election and how it affected so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just a really good book for people to read, to kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes and see how our voting decisions actually affect other people. Because a lot of times you hear people say, oh, it doesn't even matter what I vote for, doesn't even matter, but you know, it really does, and it matters to a lot of people. So definitely read it. I highly recommend.
That's really good. And it's a graphic novel.
Yes.
And one of the ones I bought for Laura because I've been dying to read it. And like every time I see it in a bookstore, I keep meaning to buy it for myself, but I didn't. I bought it for Laura. It's like,
would you like to borrow it?
I would like to borrow it. But yeah, I'm excited that you loved it. I thought it was going to be amazing. So I'm glad that I was right.
It was really good. I was confused because, so Hannah, just to recap, for my 30th birthday, Hannah gave me a really awesome present that was 30 blind dates of the book. And I guess I had assumed that Hannah had read all of these books, but I texted her and I was like, wait, you haven't read this? And she was like, no, I didn't read all of these. So some of these she has read and some of she has not. So I guess I'm going to have to figure that out.
Some books I got, because like, I don't know, I'm someone who I like to give people like books that or like presents that presents are supposed to be about the other person. They're often not about me. Like I'm a very much about the person who will be like, I like this. I think you'll like it. Like so many of my recommendations to people are often like, oh, I like this. And I actually think you'll like this. Like I recently told one of my cousins to listen to FTF. And I was like talking to his sister and I was just like, because his sister is my roommate. It was my roommate's brother. Easier to say. But I was like, no, I actually think he would appreciate that podcast. You should tell him to listen to it. And it's like, I try to match people's energies. So for your books, there are quite a few that like I have not read, but I thought you would enjoy based on the vibes and based on everything about them. And, you know, it was 30 books. So some of them might be stinkers. And Hannah just bought them because she was at our local bookstore and she wanted to get you a couple from there.
And you know what? I was like also like thinking, I wonder if she threw in like some prank books. Like
I never threw in prank books.
Here's a Rachel Hollis just because I think it's hilarious.
I would never give you a Rachel Hollis book.
Do not enjoy Rachel Hollis.
Because guys, the thing about Laura is I am positive that if I gave her a gag Rachel Hollis book, she wouldn't open another book for at least a month. And she would be like,
that's not true. That's not true. I would keep opening them, but I would not know what to do with that book because I could not, in goodwill, I could not give it to someone or donate it. Like I cannot return that back out into the world. But at the same time, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do with this? I can't have a Rachel Hollis book in my home. So it would be honestly the ultimate prank.
Winston, you go too big or you go too small. There's a blueberry in my cereal. Oh God, that show's so good. All right, so you read Good Talk.
Started rewatching The Mindy Project, and it just made me think a lot about how some of the people in romantic comedy TV shows that people used to be like, oh, they're so great, are just so problematic. And I'm looking at you, Danny Castellano.
Danny Castellano does not
so
age
problematic.
Well.
Do not aim for a Danny Castellano.
Aim higher. I know it's hard to rewatch because like you also know that like he never actually fixes any of his toxicity.
No.
Like he just continues with it on and like it becomes, I guess, okay at the end because we like think he has some redeeming qualities.
I was gonna say you think like, oh, they got back together, so maybe he's grown because Mindy has grown.
There's been no evidence.
There's no proof because he's been gone. So
I did not love the last season. I just thought a lot of it was messy and like the Danny of it all just didn't add up. And I actually really enjoyed it beforehand. Spoilers for the Mindy Project. If you haven't seen it, watch it and skip like a minute. But I actually really liked in the show that like they had always planned to have them be endgame, but I was appreciating when they broke them up. I was like, oh, I've never seen a show do this where they break up and it's kind of just because they can't make it work. And you get to see what happens after a love and romance on a TV show doesn't work out. And I actually really liked that. And then when they brought it back, I felt like they undid a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I almost would have just liked for Mindy to have been single, but I think that could have been a more empowering take to have a single mom, and also like a single mom who has a relationship, just a parenting relationship with her child's father. I think would have been far more interesting and would have felt better. But Danny Castellano right from the beginning is just bad and does not improve that much, even when you're supposed to be like, oh, we're starting to fall for him because he likes Mindy. It's just like, stop, Mindy, no, go back.
It's also weird because like even like when I rewatch the show, I'm always like floored by how quickly he starts to have a crush on her.
Yeah,
because like by episode 3 of the first season, he's like kind of down to spend more time with her. And I was like, oh, this is not a will they won't. Like, this isn't like an enemies to lovers, because like they were never enemies by the time the show got going. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah. And then it got Laura and I on a topic of online dating, and I updated her on all the red flags of online dating.
Well, on Love on the Spectrum, they say that a red flag, I can't remember which girl it was that was saying that when she's online dating, if they're holding a fish in
that
their
is
profile,
well known.
That is a red flag. And I didn't know these things. So
Laura never had to online date. Lucky duck that she is. For all of us plebeians who didn't find the love of our lives, we have had to online date. And I told Laura, because like the fish one is a thing, I told Laura about pineapple on pizza. Let's have a conversation about. It's not a controversial topic or something to fight about.
I was gonna say,
topping.
How about that's like, who cares? People don't like certain foods.
The thing that's dorkiest about me is I like Star Wars or Star Trek or Marvel. And it's like, that's not dorky. It's not. And this is for any gendered person. I'm not specifically saying men. All people do this. Oh my gosh. I'm looking for the Jim to my Pam. That's a huge one.
Really?
Or the Pam to my...
Also, Jim and Pam had not a great relationship.
Right. Or the
honestly.
Pam to my Jim. And it's just like, okay, so you watch The Office. Like, it's just very specific. And then Laura had questions for me. She saw my online dating profile and she was like, do you have to have that many group pictures? Because I have like 2. And I was like, well, you want 1 to 2 to show you can have friends. Yeah. And like, you can really only have 1 obvious selfie to like show someone your face. And the rest have to be either activities or like full body shots. So there are rules to online dating.
It's gotta be like so interesting.
Well, you don't have to be interesting, but you have to be unique.
a wild Hannah out.
Yes, because if we know one thing about Hannah, it's that she's wildly adventurous.
In like that. What's that pose? I can't even remember. Oh, I'm trying to think.
I could not.
I'll remember it.
Okay,
my brain's failing me.
But yeah, so we chatted about all the things of online dating, and I forget what else I told you. It was like a very specific answer that oh my gosh, teach me something about anything. Give me travel tips for Europe. I actually saw one today where it was like, give me travel tips to Asia. And I'm like, Asia is huge. Where are you going in Asia? Be more specific.
Yeah, I feel like, and I gave you one. I was like, I would be like, can someone please explain why possums can eat ticks and they don't contract Lyme disease? That's what I would ask. Something like that. That's very, very specific.
But also that just lends itself to a very specific type of outdoors person that I'm not sure I want to match with.
Or actual dorks, like people who actually know things about possums.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me about possums. I could go on for hours.
I mean, I would be very intrigued by the subset of people that this would attract.
I will say that the usual ones that gave me the most traction, I finally had to rotate one out because I'm too young in it. Like it happened like 6 years ago. But the one of me in New Orleans where I'm like looking up adoringly at the fake pirate, I have used that on so many dating profiles and so many people commented and they're like, I can't be him, but I can try. And there was a bunch of quips that go along with that one. It was an excellent photo of me. I'm just like much older than that photo was when I took it. So I need to find a way to recreate it
now.
And then I say that my deepest fear is someone is living in my house without my knowledge of it. And I'm convinced that they're always in my basement. And so many people are like, oh, and ghosts now, but like people always comment on that one and they're like, that seems like a legitimate fear. And I'm like, I know, thank you.
Yeah, that's very specific. I feel like you have to be specific about these things.
Or like funny, like you just have to be funny and a little bit charming. So,
but also don't change yourself. So.
Don't change yourself, and don't listen to one woman who does online dating, because that sounds
also,
like a
if
terrible
Star Wars
idea.
is the dorkiest thing about you, then I guess
go forth and prosper. But that's from Star Trek.
That's Star Trek.
I know, but I just made someone mad, and that is the dorkiest thing about them.
If that's
today.
the dorkiest thing about you, then Luke, I am your father.
Oh my gosh, Laura, you can't just go ruining Star Wars like that.
We don't know which character is the father still.
God.
There's no spoilers yet. Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
Well, did you tell us what you just said the Mindy Project. So I've not been watching the Mindy Project, although I do love that show so much. I just finished today Hood Feminism.
Oh, I heard that's really good.
Yes, it is very good. It's by Mikki Kendall. She does the audiobook for it, which is how I decided to consume it. And it was very good. I would say like I've done enough processing about racism that like quite a bit of it was not shocking to me, but important information to always keep in mind and always be asking yourself. And the way she provides information, like she's very open about like, I'm not exactly a nice person. I'm very upfront and in your face, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm like, no, there is nothing wrong with that. And I thought she layered a lot of personal anecdotes with actual statistical information and humanizing different forces, different people. She like made sure she recognized her biases. And she was very open about everything. And like, I highly recommend everyone listen to Hood Feminism, especially if you think you are a feminist, because there's a lot that goes into intersectionality that I think people get to ignore because it's not at the forefront of their knowledge and they're not affected by it. And so it's important to kind of listen to it and reflect on it. And I did that a lot with this one, and it was very good. So highly recommend that. Laura and I read 2 amazing books by women of color, and we believe you should definitely look at both of them. And then I also finished Song of Achilles for you.
Yay!
It is done. I have read it.
It is done.
It is done. I have finally read it. I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I didn't cry like many women did at that book. I didn't
cry with it either, but it's still like one of my favorites. I think it's so good.
That's fair. I really liked it. She's such a wonderful writer. It's so amazing to read her books. Like I can't even.
Miller is awesome.
She's a stunning writer. I've read Circe. I think I like her books a little bit less than you. Just from the vibes I get from when we talk about her. Because sometimes her books, like sometimes her characters just don't hit for me the way I think they should. Or for me personally. And like, I think part of that is, like, I understand these characters are supposed to be likable or unlikable, unlikable. I'm so sorry.
But sometimes I don't think they're supposed to be likable.
But sometimes I still want to know like why they're having that motivation. And it feels like Madeline Miller sometimes says like they have that motivation because that's what history told us. And I'm like, okay, but you're the author here. So like, you can't just rely on like, well, it's historically accurate. If we're in one of the characters' minds and I'm still questioning why his motivations work, it's not working, you know?
Sure.
So I hit some of those, but for those who don't know, Song of Achilles follows Patroclus, who was very involved in the Battle of Troy and was very close with Achilles, and they grow up together, and it follows along Achilles' path through the eyes of Patroclus. So It's very good. I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting.
Mhm.
It helped me out of my reading slump because it's like the perfect 3 to 4 star book that's like light and fun.
Mhm.
And I greatly enjoyed so much of it. So, Laura, thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah,
And everyone should read it because it's all over Bookstagram and Twitter and all the places. Everyone reads Song of Achilles. So
I feel like it's one of those books where I'm like, everyone has talked about this, everyone has hyped it up. And I feel like it's worth the hype because it's, you hear about a lot of these Greek stories. Like everybody knows about the Battle of Troy and everything, but this is one where it's like, oh, this is a different retelling and it's probably more accurate than the ones that we usually get.
yes.
So I think it's well worth reading. And
Same.
I think that Miller writes mythological characters in Greek mythology. She writes them really well because they come off as distant and yet at the same time problematic and still having feelings and relationships, and it's an interesting balance, but I think she hits it right for me.
I would agree with that. And there's so many authors who like never get the Greek gods particularly right, but she does, where it's like, oh, these Greek gods are often ridiculous creatures.
Yeah.
So I do think that works very well. So that was also very good. And I'm trying to think if I have any other books to discuss. I finished Stranger Things.
Yeah. You said you weren't going to give all the spoilers, Hannah,
no spoilers.
So, okay.
I would say my biggest critique of this season, and I need to actually rewatch the seasons because, like I said, I honestly do not remember. I was chatting with Veronica over Netflix party during it, and she was like, I miss X character from season 3. And I was like, who? And she's like, Hannah, it's a very informative character in season 3. And I was like, you could be making up a name and I would believe you.
It was 11. 11 is not
I didn't recognize 11, Laura. Although there is like a very specific thing about 11 in this season where like every time I see it, I'm like, that just makes me mad. Why are they doing this? Like, it just does not make sense.
She's British now.
Yeah, she is British, full-on British accent. She got sick of doing an American accent and just went full Brit on us. She's British. And I will say, like, my biggest pet peeve about this season was it feels like a lot of the characters who have progressed in prior seasons kind of regressed in this season. And like we kind of had a backslide into certain things, which I understand contextually why they might try to retread old ground, or like how people who have suffered through trauma, like it is a cyclical thing. But part of me also just wonders if like sometimes the Duffer brothers aren't good. Like, and this is a lot with a lot of writers. Sure. Sometimes when you have to continue on a story, it's hard to think of new ways to be nuanced. So it's easier to be like, well, what if this happens?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but we've already processed that emotion with that character. So now you're just asking me to reprocess with them. And I thought we had some kind of like movement, and now it feels like we haven't. And there are at least like 3 characters off the top of my head where I'm like, I think I've stopped caring about you now. Like, I just don't necessarily care about what they've done with your character because like you were a huge person and now it just feels weird. And so my biggest critique is some of them feel like they've regressed, and it kind of just
like they didn't know what to do with them.
Well, it also feels like the Duffer Brothers, and like it's an action horror TV series, and part of the issue is I'm not a huge action horror fan, so that also might be a negative on my part that I'm bringing to this, that I'm failing to critique it as accurately as others can. But like when your entire goal is to just heighten things each season, it's the whole like How I Met Your Mother thing of like, you know, a pump up CD has to have some falling. It can't just be all rise because like then where are you going? So I do feel a little bit like meh, but I did finish The Gilded Age, which was no action and no anything. It's just rich people being rich people. And
rich snobby people.
Right? And like people, it's such a funny show where it's like it's my favorite, where the entire season, they're like, hey, don't trust that person. Hey, don't trust that person. And the final episode is like, we were right all along.
Remember when we said not to trust them? Good.
There was no subterfuge. There was like never a moment where you're supposed to be like on this one person's side. You're always supposed to think they're kind of sus. And then at the end, it's like, oh, like there was never any like, oh my gosh, all along. And it's like, yeah, all along, everyone was telling us. And that's why I love these kind of shows, because sometimes you just want to watch something where it's like, I don't have to feel stressed about what's coming. I don't have to ask. I just know that guy's gonna be bad at the end of the day. Like, and I
also kind of love stuff like that where it's like funny because it's just so like in your face about it. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, this show is in 2022, but it was like, it's technically like taking place in the 1880s, but they do have certain like things that I just love that if the show were written in the 90s, we wouldn't have. So there's like, there is this like kind of rumor that one of the sons is having an affair with a servant girl, and everyone's like horrified. And like his cousin walks into the room, and like the son's mom is like, she's having an affair with my son. And the daughter or the cousin's like, oh, how democratic. And he doesn't judge, and she's just like making a joke. And Anna's like, this is not a laughing matter. And like everyone hates one of the maids. And I think in like other shows that were like not written this year, so many people would hide the fact that they disliked her, but like this woman is objectively awful to everyone she talks to. And like at one point she makes a comment, and one of the other people who work in the kitchens look at her and they go, oh, go back to your cave. And I'm just like, what just happened? This is like supposed to be the 1880s.
Wow.
Like, so many people are just out of pocket, and it makes me laugh every time. And I love when like stuff like that happens.
Gold.
People probably did have that type of conflict. It's like us looking at rose-colored glasses where it's like, everyone was so nice to each other and polite. And it's like, no, at some point someone said something mean, because people are mean.
Right. Like we all think it's just Downton Abbey.
Right. And like, that's just not how it works.
Drama.
And so it's very funny. I like it because like, it's very old money versus new money type of show. And it's just funny to watch new money be like aggressive and be like, we're going to be a part of this. And it's like, okay, but that just, you guys are all awful. Like you're all equally awful because money is terrible, but I'm going to keep watching. And this is excellent TV. And why wouldn't I want to watch Christine Baranski in an 1880s drama period piece?
Amazing. So.
Right.
So,
it's very interesting. I liked it. 9 episodes well spent. Oh, and then I saw the weirdest movie called, oh my gosh. Sorry. Okay. It's called Hello, My Name is Doris. And it stars like, okay, so I started it and then I was like, what is this movie? It's like stacked with a cast. Like I just kind of turned it on, and it's Sally Fields.
Okay.
And it's set in 2015. I'm like, okay, so in this movie, there's Sally Field, there's Max Greenfield from New Girl.
Oh, I've heard about this movie. It's supposed to be really good.
Like,
where she wants to be in a relationship with a younger man.
Okay, so
she works with.
Yeah, but like it also has like Peter Gallagher, Natasha Lyonne, Camille Nanjiani is in this movie.
Oh, I love him.
Like, okay, so I watched it, and the thing is I don't think it's supposed to be. It's called a romantic comedy, but I actually don't think it is, because there's a lot of undertones in this where I'm like, if this were an older male doing this to a younger woman, we would all have an issue with it.
Yeah,
but there is a very weird thing about older women where like, because they aren't quote unquote dangerous, that they can't be predators, but they can be predators because they can try to go after someone in inappropriate ways. Like, even if there isn't.
I think there's also like this weird thing that exists where older women are almost encouraged by men and women, because men will often be like, oh yeah, look at you getting an older woman to a man, and also other women will like lift up a woman who enters into a relationship with a younger man, like good for you, girl, you do what you got to do or whatever.
Well,
and it's kind of like,
well, and that's something where it's like,
what
you and
are
I've
the
talked about this,
situation, like the circumstances that you enter into this relationship. Like,
right. And you and I've talked
we need
about
to be
this
very
before with like teacher relationships on TV show where they
Mhm.
show like aged up boys. And I'm like, no, that is a
Mhm.
boy. And if you
Yeah.
actually showed what he looked like, people would be horrified because
Mhm.
teenagers do not look like adult men very often.
Right.
And like a woman who is my age looks like she is 30. And like that was
Mhm.
recently someone I saw on TikTok, someone was like, oh my God, you're 40 to this woman. You don't look 40. You look amazing for your age. And she was like, no, I don't. I look like a 40-year-old woman. It's just none of us in our minds actually knows what a 40-year-old person looks like
Yeah.
because media has messed us up and everything in between. I look like my age. I'm fine the way I look. It's not me looking young.
Right.
And it like, so there's all of that. And like, so Sally Fields, the entire movie, guys, is like, she meets Max Greenfield in a crowded elevator. He's like very nice to her. And then she gets like a very specific crush on him. And then she like makes a fake social media account to
Don't like that.
like follow him to find out what his interests are, to like gain interest. And like, I will give the credit to this movie. She has an older friend who's like, not older friend, a friend the same age as her, who like, it's fine talking about the crush in the early stages, but by the time she makes the fake social media account, the friend is like, you're taking advice from my 13-year-old granddaughter. Maybe you should slow your roll. So like she does that. And then like, she kind of like shows up in spaces she knows he's going to be so they can interact and they become friends because he's like a nice guy. And then like stuff happens and like the end is kind of neither here nor there, but like it almost felt like at the end they wanted to like bring it back to like, oh, it's kind of a rom-com, but it's like, first of all, this woman has explicit sex fantasies in front of him and she's just standing there imagining it. Like the way they have this, like she'll go into this fantasy and then all of a sudden it'll cut to her and she's like standing in the middle of the cafeteria, like obviously in her mind somewhere have it like, and it's just like, that's incredibly inappropriate.
Yeah,
like
that's odd.
And it's kind of played for laughs. And I'm just like, okay, but she is like trying to show up in spaces he's going to be. She follows him in certain spaces. And like this, and again, there are people who are like, well, it's romantic to like try and see someone, but it's like, yeah, but she's literally following him. Like at one point she buys a concert ticket so she can like run into him to show like, oh, like I'm at the show too. I like them. And like, it's not as bad, but it's not great in context of everything else she's doing.
Right.
And like, it's just really gross. And I just didn't love it. Like, I just had a lot of complicated emotions.
Well, no, I'm kind of disappointed because I kind of, the way that they're portraying it in like previews makes it seem like it is a romantic comedy. So I'm a little disappointed because I feel like that maybe is a missed opportunity where they could have made a romantic comedy where an older woman ends up in a relationship with a younger man, but they instead went the wrong way with this and kind of made it more creepy.
Well, okay, but also they could have had like, it could have gone two different ways. It could have been a romantic comedy where a woman ends up with a younger man and they just have a romance and it's fine and it's her like having a sexual awakening. She
just remains single and becomes empowered by
it can,
like, you know.
But like they could have also gone the other way to show like, hey, society is ageist. So when you have a 60-year-old woman, no one expects her to be a predator. And people will allow certain things because there are certain things where like she'll show up where she shouldn't be. And Max Greenfield is like, oh, hi, what are you doing here? And it's because he doesn't see her as a threat or as someone who would have followed him. And it's like, okay, isn't that interesting that like, because she is who she is allowed to occupy certain spaces in a way that doesn't seem threatening, even though it is like, that's, and
whereas if it were a man, we would have immediately been like, oh, something's gonna happen. We're gonna be, this is a Dateline episode, like,
right. And like, I think at the end, like, it's not fully like she's forgiven, and in the end, there is like some comeuppance for some of her actions, but like at the same time, it does feel like they obviously either they were in on the like interesting parts of the issues in this, or that they like didn't have a well thought out romantic comedy, and the way they marketed it could also be a problem, because I think I saw the like, hey, this is Predator kind of stuff. This is interesting. She's following him. She's setting up fake social media accounts. It is interesting to see a woman act like this and a man to just not notice. So maybe that was their intent, but the way it was marketed is also really weird. And the fact that it's called like a coming of age romantic comedy drama. Like,
do you know who wrote it?
Michael Showalter, who has written Wet Hot American Summer.
I was just curious if it was written by a man or a woman.
Yeah, it was written by a man.
So that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me as well. Okay. Well, then I don't think that it had an understanding of the...
Yeah, I feel like if it had been written by someone who is not a man, maybe it would have been
better.
A little bit different, or a lot of it different.
But instead of watching Hello, My Name is Doris, I suggest everyone actually, and I plan on watching it tonight, so I haven't seen it yet. Game. Well, yes, the hating game. It's the color of your eyes. No, I'm going to tell everyone to watch the new movie. It's on Hulu. It's by Searchlight Pictures, and it's called Good Luck to You, Leo Grand. And it's about a retired school teacher who is yearning for some adventure, and she hires a young sex worker, and they have like...
Is this the Emma Thompson movie?
Yes, it has Emma Thompson in it. And they start like having, she starts working with this sex worker to kind of like open up as an older woman who has never had an orgasm and who decided to like see what was up there. And I've heard like it's great for like sex work portrayal. It's great for like older women like experiencing pleasure. And so I think everyone should watch that movie instead. And
you know Emma Thompson's not going to sign on to something unless it's really good.
And like the guy, Leo Grand, looks hella good. Like, good on Emma Thompson, because that is a very nice looking, good casting, awesome story. I can't wait to watch it. I really want to see it. And I've read some stuff where it's like, yeah, it's still kind of cheesy in the romantic comedy sort of way, but like what it does for the good things is so good. So I will watch it and get back to everyone. But
so the goods outweigh the bads.
The goods definitely outweigh the bads a little bit more than a movie written by a white man about a 60-year-old woman. So with that, should we get into it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk I Hunt by Olivia Hill.
Let's talk about Vanessa.
Want to do Vanessa first?
I mean,
is that what you want to
do, boss? Ready, boss?
Vanessa is an interesting character. I feel like I need to have at least like 6 more books to actually get what her personality is, because at this point her personality is just like chill.
Too eager. Her personality is she's too eager.
Yeah. Well, and I know
from
like
the get-go, I'm like, what is going on with this character? Like, she's attacked and then she just wakes up and is like, all right, whatever, get on the bed with me. And then she is just like immediately like, you want to hunt vampires? Okay, I'm in. I was just attacked, but sure, I'd like to do that. What?
I like that in your mind, I mean, you're probably right, because I think my reading of her was a lot more upbeat than yours, like, where yours like, I guess I'm just doing, hi, my name is Vanessa. How are you today?
Climb up on this foot.
No, but I think like your reading of her being like, yeah, they're real vampires. I'll do that. I think that actually
it's bizarre to me.
It is like, bizarre.
All right, whatever. I'm in. Let's hunt them. Like, what? No.
If a major theme of this book is like money is a weird construct of a thing that makes people crazy because they have to survive.
But do we know that she's even that motivated by money? Like, I mean, Lana is a character that we know right away that money is her motivation in nearly everything. Like, she will even deny herself medical care if it means she can save some money. But like, Vanessa is just like,
I mean, there are moments where she's like, I can't afford to pay you for this. I can pay you in increments. And then like at one point, Lana does talk about how they're each going to get like $7,500 from hunting the werewolf. And Vanessa's like, perfect. That sounds great. As long as we're getting this money. And she seems like very invested in making money. So I do think we're supposed to glean that like part of this is coming from like, I want money and this is a good way to do it, from meeting this random vampire hunter or monster hunter.
That would make more sense, but I guess I just didn't pick up on that need for money the way that you get that with other characters. Even like Denny, you sense more of a like, or he wants money.
Or she's a dark friend. She's a dark friend.
Dark friend.
Dark friend. She is a dark friend.
Now she is. She's a werewolf.
She's a werewolf. She's a dark friend.
Dark hound.
Golden eyes. Golden eyes. For all the people coming into the eye hunt discussion and not the past season, that is all jokes from Wheel of Time, and we apologize.
Totally different books. We're sorry to even compare.
they're not comparable. But yeah, I just feel like
Vanessa is just confusing to me. I wish, and this is also coming from a person that I trust no one. And so I would find it very hard to just like immediately be on board. Like, hey, what's up, guys? You just rescued me? All right, let's hunt vampires together. Like, no, there's no way that I would immediately like me putting myself in Vanessa's shoes. I could not imagine myself ever getting on board with this.
I have, especially so hubris. Quickly. I have enough hubris that I probably would, but that's on me, not on Vanessa. I do like that she seems to be the character who is like most above everyone else's shit. Like, she's like, why did you do that, Lana? Why would you sleep with someone?
Well,
come on.
You know what? Like, I do like that about her too, where she's just like, I don't like what you did to him. Like, that's not right. But look,
you're gonna put him in danger.
You're gonna put him in danger. But I don't want to be dragging this out and having this become some kind of thing that's gonna endanger us. You know, if it's gonna be an issue. So you need to figure out what's going on.
Get on that real quick and stop acting like you're acting. And so I do appreciate that about her. And I like her. In my mind, she didn't have the dark monotone voice, but now that you say that, you're right. And I didn't read her correctly. And I will forever read her as that. And that makes a lot more sense, that she's kind of just like a no bullshit, like, okay, boss, let's do this. Like, cause I think I was thinking boss is more cutesy than it was. Hey, boss. Like, what's up, boss?
Vanessa.
It's me, Vanessa. How you doing? Hi,
I'm just cracking up because I love the upbeat Vanessa, because I did not pick up on that at all.
I don't know, Laura. Sometimes I am a positive person. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's about Vanessa.
Oh, Vanessa.
Oh, Vanessa. Yeah, so I do like that she's kind of like the monotone, no bullshit kind of thing. Like, and that definitely tracks with the actual plot of the novel and not Hannah's reading on her. She worked at Forever 21. In my defense, like, I don't know if you've ever been in a Forever 21, but Upbeat wasn't the most illogical thing to say about that. Like,
I mean, Forever 21 is, I guess,
you can buy an outfit and walk out and it just falls right off you.
It's like thread. You buy it and it's threadbare.
So threadbare. The stitching on it was not stitched. It had a couple toothpicks in it, and then the toothpicks fell out immediately.
Falling apart.
Oh, and their shoes were terrible for your feet. But so cheap.
Yeah, never buy shoes from any of those places.
Oh, I bought so many shoes. I think I had like a giant platform.
I mean, you can buy them from there. Just don't expect.
I was 19 at the time.
Shoes, so
that was 19 was a weird time for shoe wearing.
I mean, yes.
But
now
yeah,
I'll see like 19-year-olds like wearing super flat shoes or like shoes. I'm like, oh, why even bother, girls? Why even bother?
I am glad that like the weird ballet flats that we wore all the time haven't come back yet, because the chokehold those had on me and they were not helpful to any type of walking.
Yeah.
Walking
I feel like
on
now
cardboard.
I mostly wear tennis shoes like all the time and I just do not care. But
yeah, I wear loafers a lot. Shoes. We're getting off track. Should we talk about Lana?
I like Lana.
I really like Lana. I think she's like
So
vastly
a lot of people are like,
complicated.
oh, a lot of people are like, oh, she's not a great character. She's not very likable. But I actually like Lana.
I really like Lana.
I feel like she's just, you can understand her motivations really clearly. She's funny.
Yeah.
Um,
She's snarky.
I feel like even though she has a lot of this undertone of like, I don't care, it's she does care deep down about people. I mean, her motivations to do things are not solely in money. She does care about other people. She does want to help victims if they're attacked by things or something, So I think she's actually a kind person. And I think it's just a really good example of like someone that the system has just kind of beat down and is getting fed up.
I agree. I really like Lana. I think she's entirely human. Like she makes human mistakes. And maybe that's where people are like, oh my gosh, like she slept with Daddy. And I'm like, okay, but like at the end of the day, like, so what?
I mean, who cares?
Who cares? Daddy kind of sucks. And he wasn't coming in with like the purest of motivations either. No. So guess what? These things happen. But like, I just think she's funny. She does care a lot about people. You're right. Like every time she tells us, like, you just can't care about people too much. It's like, no, she's someone who cares so much that she has to like purposely not have friends. Like she purposely has no one in her life besides like random people she'll meet for a couple months. Like she talks about how like her mentor was there for a while and then wasn't, and she doesn't have a support system at home.
Right.
And like, Lana's definitely someone who just wants to be happy and she doesn't really know how to do that. Right. And she struggles. And that's like, I also was pointing out that like being happy when you're struggling to pay bills is hard and you can't do things you enjoy. And like your entire life is thinking about money and work and how to survive. So like, it makes sense that she comes home for the day and she's like, I can't stop thinking. I just need to like smoke a bowl and not have to be present in the moment for a minute. And so I just think that she's deeply human, and like Olivia does a great job humanizing her and like getting us in with a very helpful like main character who we're following around and entering into this world with. So yeah, I like her a lot. I'm rooting for Lana over all things.
I mean, Lana is easily my favorite character. I think yours too.
Yeah, probably. I would say that Lana is my favorite character. I do find it funny that like she meets with, oh my gosh, what's the vampire?
Jenny?
No, the vampire. Natalie. Sorry. I'm terrible with names, guys. She meets with Natalie and like immediately falls in love. And I'm like, Lana.
So this is like I've gone on the record saying I do not enjoy vampire romance.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that I would have changed about this book is that which I'm not the writer, so I don't get to change it. But I would have like had no romance. Like it couldn't be something where she just like is lusting after this vampire because it was like a glamoring situation or because like the blood like makes you like, oh, okay, I really want that feeling again. But I was like, why did they have to get into a relationship? Like,
I know. I also like, I'm a little bit, because Lana was our favorite, I'm a little bit worried for her because I was like with Natalie, I'm like, I don't know what's going on with that woman, but I feel like you should pause.
Well, and that's what it seemed like too for me, where I was like, we go so long in this book where we're just like, we don't trust vampires, we don't know anything about them. Like they were at odds for so long. And then all of a sudden it was just kind of like, oh, yes, I really want to be with this person. Yeah, I think we're going to have a conversation. We're going to try this out. Yeah, we're working together. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Slow down.
I would agree with all of that. I just like the Natalie Lana relationship felt a little bit rushed to me. And I mean, they do make a joke about like, this is, it specifically gave me the thought of like, have you ever seen the movie Speed, Laura?
No.
Okay. Well, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock meet trying to not die on a bus. And that is the impetus for them meeting. And the end of Speed is like, Keanu Reeves has like some line about like, they say that relationships born from trauma never work, right? It's like, and I just remember like everyone talking about that. And it's like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And so I don't have high hopes for the two of you, because relationships born out of traumatic moments don't really last, because what do you have at the end of it besides like a little weird
Shared
bonding?
trauma.
So yeah. And guess what? In Speed 2, she's no longer with Keanu Reeves. So he was right.
He called it.
Mostly because Keanu did not want to be in Speed 2.
It was foreshadowing.
Yeah. So that is kind of the vibes. And maybe it wasn't Speed, but whatever movie Keanu Reeves said is that in, that's the one I'm talking about. Okay. But that was the one thing where I was like, Lana, you need to slow. And that's like, maybe Lana, weirdly, for someone who has zero friends, is also a little too trusting. Because it's like,
I mean,
meets Vanessa and she's like, yeah, I'll take you under my wing. And it's like, please give Vanessa a background check. She unsettles both Laura and
I feel like I get less of a she trusts everyone vibe from Lana and more of a she is under an immense amount of stress and is trying to do her job. So she quickly has to make decisions about people. And I wonder if sometimes she makes snap decisions.
That's,
you know what I mean? I feel like, and in most cases she has good judgments, but in this Natalie case, I'm like, was this the right choice?
Right.
I am unsure. But
I am unsure as well.
And maybe too, I feel this way because again, I'm going on the record that I don't like vampire romances, but I also wonder if it's because I feel like we didn't know as much about Natalie, and then all of a sudden for it to just be like, oh no, but I'm a good vampire. We actually have good and bad vampires, and all of these hits that you've been putting out are organized by the vampires. So, and it's kind of like a major shakeup, you know what I mean? To be like, well, everything we've been told so far seems to be not exactly as we've been told. So it's like a little bit like, but now how do I feel about this? Because everything's changed.
Well, and I definitely think like that also might be a little bit of a brand of this was born from like RPG games where like their shakeups are known to happen. And I know like this came first technically, but like if you're used to that type of content, like this would seem like, oh, it's just a shakeup. You're just learning that like the strategy of the table was like wrong all along and we have to move forward. I've never played a tabletop game. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, that
I'm
would make
sense. With some kind of authority.
You're convincing me.
Yeah, speak with authority. People will just believe you. But yeah, so I do think that there is like a certain thing to tabletop games where suddenly it's like, oh, we went to this and now all of a sudden this is happening. So I do think it might be a flavor of that. And it's a little bit more jarring when you're used to reading the Wheel of Time where it's like they walk to an inn and then they walk to another inn. Yes. So I do think that that makes a little bit more sense, but you're right. It is like a sudden shape up where all of a sudden we just have Natalie and like it ends up feeling like Lana just trusts people quickly, even if she's not inherently like a naive character. She's not naive. And
she's not a naive character. And, you know, like the reasoning to trust her, I guess, is there, but it just seems like it happens quickly. And it's like, okay, well, like I said, like everything that we were told before now seems different. So then it's like hard for me as a reader to be like, oh, but should we trust her? Is she telling the truth? You know what I mean?
Right. And I do think it's interesting. It's also hard because like when we're set up, Lana's been doing this for a while. So it's almost like, how did you not know like all this vampiric stuff was going on behind the scenes? So there is a little bit of like a question there. But overall, she's an interesting character. I like that she's kind of willing to move with things. And even at the beginning, she doesn't like inherently trust Natalie. She's just like, pay me more money.
Right.
And then I will let this happen instead. And like, that's good. And that's helpful, I think. But you and I are both picking up on a little bit of the like rushness and like the movements and machinations of everything.
What'd you think of Natalie?
Natalie, she's also a character who I'm like, I just can't get a vibe on her yet. Like she is a vampire. She didn't always want to be a vampire. if we take my like Buffy comparisons to the extreme, she is the Angel character, but she's better than Angel. I'll give her that. Mm-hmm. Like Angel kind of sucked in Buffy. I don't understand why she liked him so much. David Boreanaz was so much older than Sarah. Like it's so hard to watch it and be like, how old was he? He is like, this is showing how old a vampire would be. Like, come on. Like, but
ick.
Yeah. So I liked Natalie because I do get like the desperateness of her. Like she's desperate. She doesn't really understand what's going on. And she's like part of something that she doesn't really want to be a part of, which I think is interesting. And I appreciate that in a character.
I think that's the most interesting part of Natalie to me, is that she's involved in a way that she's kind of shaking up her own system, if that makes sense.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, I'm in this and I have to do this, but I don't like it. And I kind of want to do things in a different way.
Right. I just want to on record that when Buffy the Vampire Slayer premiered, Sarah Michelle Gellar was 19 and David Boreanaz was 27. So yeah, that's why it bothered me. But yeah. Anyways. Yeah, I think Natalie, she's interesting. I feel like she'll be more interesting in future books because like right now it's her setup that most interests us. Like she knows the politicking of vampirism. Yeah. And so that's what she brings to the table. She is allowed to like walk on and shake up the board that they're on and be like, you've been killing people or you've been killing vampires for other vampires. And like, yeah, I have guilt when I hurt someone, but also like sometimes I even lose my own like bodily autonomy, which is interesting because like a huge thing of why Lana hates vampires is like they can take away your bodily autonomy. They can do this, they can do this. And this is why they're inherently evil. And like Natalie again shakes with the board by being like, yeah, that happens to us too. Like it's not this all or nothing game. It's just, it's interesting. I think Natalie is very interesting, and I'm interesting to see where she goes, even if she feels a little bit rushed in this book to like get her in the plot, which is also kind of hard when like the beginning is supposed to start off with vampire and monster hunter, and then by page like 250 it's opening nightclub with together. Vampire. Yeah. So that is like there's not a ton of page time for that to happen, and that may also just like you and I both said we wanted
this to be a longer book.
Yes.
And I think that we need the second book.
Yeah. I'll order it soon.
One thing I was going to mention though, so where I think that relationship was rushed, and I think there were certain moments in the plot that were rushed and I would have liked them drawn out a little longer. One thing that I think Olivia does really well is quickly explains things about the different monsters, where it's so easy to understand, like, okay, these do this, and then this happens with them, and you do this. And it's just like, boom, 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 this is how it works. And you understand it really quickly, where it's like, okay, well, that's kind of complicated, but okay, I get it. So I really enjoyed that aspect of her writing.
Right. And this is something we can also like talk about a little bit next week too, but like,
I knew I would forget it.
No, you're fine. And I think that that's good to bring up, because I was also going to bring up like something I really like about this is like Olivia seems to, there's something very interesting with this book. I think why we both like Lana is there's not a ton of books that have been with vampires where like typically the start of the book happens with like the Vanessa character, where it's suddenly someone who's like taken in under their wing by like this person who knows everything.
Sure.
And like they're introduced to the world, and that's like the main way the narration takes place is like you have to teach her all about these things. But I like that it's like, no, Lana knows what's going on and she's going to explain it to the audience, and it's just going to be like one of those like, I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Like Ferris Bueller, like looks over like,
Daddy's in love with me, but I can't. And he's attractive for if you like simple.
He's kind of cute if you like simple.
He kept asking if I wanted breakfast. I'm like, take a hit.
I feel like I would love to narrate an audiobook, but I have such a babyish voice.
I also recently was like, oh God, no one would want to hear my voice for that long about audiobooks.
I think this all the time about myself. I'm like, man, I wish I could narrate this audiobook. I would do such a good job. And then I'm like, Laura, your voice is so babyish that people wouldn't believe that you're like a 30-year-old person. They'd be like, oh, she should be narrating YA.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my voice. All I know is it sounds like really nice in my head. And then when I listen to the podcast, I'm like, that's what I sound like. No. I am not okay with this.
So depressing.
Yeah. But then do we want to talk about Denny?
I mean, I don't have many thoughts on Denny that are positive.
I mean, but sometimes that's fun to discuss, Laura. I don't think they're supposed to be positive, Laura.
I don't like the Denny character. You're not supposed to like the Denny character. I don't think he gets his role in the story of him and Lana at all.
No.
And I don't like him kind of just being mad about that situation either. At least that's the vibe that I got was after that interaction, that he was like kind of mad and doesn't want to show up or help anymore. And like, I know Vanessa says like, okay, look, I don't like what happened here and you don't need to be putting him in danger, but also he didn't have to participate in anything either. You know, like if he was only interested in like having a relationship with Lana and he wasn't interested in the other things, like it's not really her putting him in danger per se if he consents to participate in a monster hunting event. I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe a little too much guilt is put on Lana.
So I think like I agree with you very much. I think the Denny character is interesting because I think I'm assuming, I don't know what Hill was playing with, but Olivia, I've met this woman. But I'm using her official title as author. But like, it kind of almost seems that Denny like, if this were written in the Buffy era, he is the Xander character who like now 20 years later, people are like, no, Xander always sucked and he didn't deserve the women he got on that show. And he didn't deserve all this like stuff. And he was just a toxic male who like I've rewatched Buffy as an adult. I never saw it as a teenager. So I watched it as an adult, not rewatched. My brain is gone today. I've been packing, guys, all day and doing random stuff. So my brain is just kind of a little woo-woo. But like when I watched it, there's literally an episode where Xander wants to give Buffy a gift because the implication is she'll be his girlfriend then after he gets her a gift. And there's not a conversation about them being in a relationship. So that's not how that works, literally. No. And so I do think that like Denny as a character where like it feels like Olivia knew that that's kind of the Xander character. And it's kind of like pointing it out how bad it is, because it's weird, because if you think about it, Denny is one, like Lana is educated. She has student loans and everything. Denny is educated with likely a secondary degree, because to be a librarian, you have to have a master's. So like he has been in school longer. It kind of says that he's a little bit more financially stable than the rest of them, because he does like the holy crepes for fun and for like things to do on the weekend and a little bit to supplement his income, but it's not as necessary as for everyone else. So him becoming a vampire hunter, he has like the privilege to decide to do that. And he's literally doing it to get closer to a woman he has a crush on.
And I think that's why I was just kind of like, why is there so much of this like put on Lana to be like, and I shouldn't say so much, but in that conversation with Vanessa, it's kind of like put on Lana where it's like, I don't like that you did this and you shouldn't be putting Denny in danger. And it's like, well, I offered this as an option. He could have said no, but he chose to do this, and he chose to do this for the wrong reason. It wasn't because he actually wanted to be involved in this. It's because he thought he was
Right.
going to end up in a relationship with me by doing this, and that's not how this works.
I think that like a little bit, it made sense, Vanessa's reaction, to me at least. I could be wrong.
I think her reaction is fine.
Yeah.
I don't know that I totally can sympathize with the way that it's played
out. I mean?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. I think from where I stood, Vanessa was coming at it where she kind of saw it as a power dynamic issue, because like she sees Lana as their boss.
Yeah.
But she isn't as aware of like all the underlying relationship that Lana and Denny had previously, and that Denny like wasn't here on accurate. Like he was here under false pretenses. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's hard because like, it's the whole like men have to know when to stop pursuing a woman and accept that she doesn't want to be pursued.
Yeah.
And it felt like Denny had definitely surpassed that threshold where she's been honest. So at some point she's pretty honest with like, sometimes you just want sex. I just want sex tonight. And he wanted it to be quote unquote special. And he kept trying to be the quote unquote good guy, but that even was a little bit of a false pretense.
I mean, I was going to say that didn't even really hold up, because him saying, oh, you know, I want our first time to be special, this or that, he quickly gives up on that.
Well, and again, like there's a difference between you're too drunk, so I'm not going to have sex with you, and no, we can't do this. You've been drinking and you're high. Like it's almost this like I have to say it in order to get to the sex part, so that I
said all the right things.
And so I don't have to be the bad guy or the guy who took advantage, because, and like, again, in her mind, and she is very explicit with like, he did not take advantage. I did want sex. I wasn't going to regret it. But then on the other side, for him to be like, but it was supposed to be special. I did this for you. And it's like, no, you also wanted to have sex. Like you just wanted it to be different, and it wasn't. Like
you wanted a different outcome.
And she seemed pretty honest about what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, so, you know, and yes, it's disappointing to want to have sex with someone and you find out like it was different than the sex you thought you were having.
Right.
But it does feel like he puts the blame on her instead of owning up to all the other things that he did wrong as well. It takes two to tango, and it feels like he can't accept that.
Agreed.
But yeah, he was the most interesting because, like I said, he seemed to be like the most privileged of all of them to like choose to do it. And then he was the one who was like, well, it stopped being fun when I learned I couldn't get what I wanted out of it. So I'm not going to do it anymore.
I also just think it's really interesting that this character, like after that interaction doesn't end well, is just kind of like, I'm done. I'm
not going to be around you guys
and
anymore.
You don't really hear from him anymore, which is not surprising, actually. I mean, and I kind of like that that's how it was written. Yeah. Because that seemed like the exact way that type of interaction would play out.
I know. So, yeah.
He didn't get his fairy tale night, and so he's just like, okay, I'm done with you guys, whatever. You're the worst.
This is everyone else's fault but my own. Yeah, he definitely gives off this is everyone else's fault but my own energy. Yeah, but
did everything right.
I told her we were gonna have sex like this, but we still did, but like she wanted it. Like it's just like, okay, she wanted it, and now she doesn't. Like it's interesting. Okay, with that said, do you have anything else about any other characters? Or are we missing out on anyone?
What other characters were there? I mean, you
lots
have just
MAGA, and I do like that, like Olivia wrote this during 2016. So like we have all the context of like the MAGA guys and the Nazi. And I do love that like a lot of the monsters who suck because of their ideals. Like I mean, it's not
they're
like
monsters for multiple reasons.
Yeah, they're monsters for multiple reasons, and kind of the like vampirism and werewolfism is like not the actual issue. Like, yes, they have to hunt people if they're like murdering people, but like that's why you need to find normal everyday people as well. Yeah. Like if someone's murdering someone, it's not good. But like she learns that she can trust Natalie Natalie's a vampire, but Natalie like has some kind of moral compass to follow. Even the like owner of the vampires, he's like, oh great, you guys have like a consensual space, which has its own issues, and we've like talked about that. Olivia has tweeted at us about that. She tweeted at us saying that you were spot on with how uncomfortable you were supposed to feel at the end of with the club, because it's supposed to be about how like you can make a right decision for yourself then and still be kind of
still feel conflicted
and still kind of be like preyed upon because you needed to make that. So like, even if it's your active choice, there are still so many things out of your control. And so like, you are supposed to feel some kind of way. But I enjoyed that like a lot of these characters, it's kind of like, no, they suck because of who they are, not because of like what they are. So like Denny sucks, not because he's a guy, but like how he acts because he's a guy. And like,
right.
And, you know, we have the werewolf who is a Nazi, and he sucks more. Like, she's more upset she has to cart around a Nazi than she has to cart around a werewolf. She's like, oh God, I should have just beat him up when I had the chance, and then I wouldn't have had this mess. Of course it was him. And like the MAGA guy, like they're both like, Natalie didn't want to suck him dry and she didn't want to deal with him, but he did have the whole like, I gave you a compliment, why can't you just take it that way? And that is something that women have heard before. So
much where it's just like, oh, they're just complimenting you, just like, it's fine.
You know what I never need complimented on? How attractive I look. Like if it's a weird compliment, I know I'm okay, thank you.
Pass on that.
Pass. But yeah, I do like that, like all the side characters, like the ones who are good, you know, they're good because they're good people who try to help Lana, and the ones who suck. Like, her manager sucks. Her landlady was one of the like neutral people who like wasn't good or bad, but like had bad.
I also thought that the HR person was interesting too, from the aspect of they were trying to help Lana slightly, and understood her situation, but at the same time they're like, look, corporate is gonna pitch a fit and I unfortunately have to do this.
I can't lose my job. Well, and that's the interesting thing is like, I guess another character in this book is capitalism. And guess what, that character is the real bad guy. Everything comes down to it. The HR person wants to help her, knows she's a good person, knows that like all she did was miss clocking in because she was distracted.
Right.
And all of a sudden she has to get drug tested because she was late. And that's just not helpful. And like, we live in a world where you can give away your contractually like supported rights, saying like, you can't just give me a urine test. And it's like, well, you signed a document saying you could, but also if you never sign that document, you can't work here. So you don't get to refuse it. You don't get like added benefits for doing this. It's just, we get to control exactly what you do in a state where something like that is legal. Like, it's just, it's interesting because that's a real thing. It's not like it doesn't happen to people. And so watching an HR person want to help but have their hands tied because it's a giant corporation, you know, it sucks.
And then I feel like the landlady is almost similar. She really just wants to just get rent and be cool with this, but she's like, look, these cops are getting involved, things are happening, I can't do this.
Well, and that's the thing is like, when cops are involved, it does escalate like the danger of things happening or things occurring.
And it's like, okay, well, are people ever going to want to like rent from my other apartments, that kind of thing? Like,
and she kind of says like, and Lana is also very sympathetic towards people who she knows their hands are tied. So most of the times with the landlord,
which
she's
is
like
very good for the character, because so many people I don't think can have that kind of restraint where they can understand people's situations and not just like react like angrily. Like, what the heck? How come you don't get it? This is what I'm dealing with. Like, I know I couldn't in many of those situations. Just be like, oh, come on. You know that I'm doing this or that for these reasons. And
But I also think that that's something where like, it also has to go where I can kick a fuss when I'm upset. And the most that's going to happen to me is someone who I don't know on the other end of the line, if I'm upset, has a bad day or calls me a name when I hang up the phone. But there is something to like, Lana doesn't have the like the safety net of being mean. Like she has to be polite. And like, yeah, when the landlady's like, I want to kick you out. And she's like, okay, I know my legal rights. You have to do this, this, and this to kick me out. And if you don't, like, you're violating the law. And that's because she's desperate in that moment. Sure. But even she knows like, okay, this is going to be hard on me in a couple months when my lease is up, or this is going to happen to me. And this woman is not going to forget what I just told her. So there is like the desperation of having to be nice in a bad situation. And that is a real thing. And like nice to the police officers because like, and she and Vanessa, when they're in that one community with a bunch of like white people where they're feeling in danger. And it's just like, yeah, they don't have the right to be rude to a Nazi. They just have to like walk on by and keep polite and like mind their P's and Q's, quote unquote, because they just don't have the safety of like other people. And I think you feel that within the pages really well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well put.
So I don't know. Do we have any final thoughts, or do we just leave on that like rousing thing of remember, if you get to be rude, it's because that's a privilege.
Rudeness is a privilege.
Rudeness is a privilege. And we're both from the Midwest, so you know we're being truthful about that.
Because the Midwest is very nice.
To your face. To your face, and then they close the door.
Have a blessed day. Can you believe that?
This reminds me of my grandma. My grandma like became deaf, and we'd take her out to restaurants. She wasn't fully deaf, but she was very hard of hearing. And she would be like, do you know that the girl behind us got a baby out of wedlock? And we're like, Grandma, don't talk about that. Wait.
Oh my gosh. I know so many people though that say, have a blessed day. And they're those type of people who are like, have a blessed day. And then they're also just terrible people because they gossip like no other and just say terrible things about other people. But they'll be the first to tell you, have a blessed day.
Yeah. It's a very specific thing of like, I hate when I hear the like, I'm praying for you. And I'm like, pray for yourself. Like, I'm okay. Like you seem like you have a lot of hate in your system, and God doesn't like hate either based on the Bible you read. So maybe you should work on that. I don't have a hateful bone in my body. I just can't accept people for who they are. Thanks, person. What a resounding qualified experience and opinion you have. Like, oh, sorry. On that lovely note. Tell us about.
But really, this is a good book.
Yeah, so. We're going to tell you to read this book all the time. Laura and I just said that we want to read the second book. We really like Lana. I really like Lana. I thought Denny was like perfectly
curious to see what happens. Honestly, this is a fun book. I mean, it's a quick read.
Yes,
because like literally right before we were gonna record, I was like, "Oh crap, I gotta get this done. I gotta get this read." And I thought I was gonna like, because I was kind of in a bit of a reading slump. I'm not gonna lie.
Same.
It was easy to read. You were interested. It wasn't a book where I'm like, oh, this is going to be dreadful. No, not the case at all.
Not the case.
So it's a fun read. I think that the characters are fun. I think that the way that it's related to modern times and this fantastical dark situation is kind of meshed together with our dark situation that we're living in is really interesting. And I think people should read it. And I'm curious to learn about the game too.
I know we need to play the game at some point. Laura and I love this. Pick it up now if you haven't, even if you've listened to all of this. We should have put it at the front. We'll try to do that next week, but you guys should do that. And then remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing helps bring other people into this conversation. I hunt into intermission and everything in between. Also make sure to pick up a copy of The Poppy War before July, because we will be covering the Poppy War, first half of the plot, first thing in July. So be prepared. We're ramping up. It's sitting on my shelf. Right.
One of the best songs from Lion King.
From all of Disney. Are you kidding me? Just listen to teacher. And then make sure you're following us at Our Pod. That's OWWR Pod on all the social platforms. And we just hope you guys have a great day. And thank you so much to Olivia Hill for writing this book. I always say Olivia Hunt because I hunt. Hannah can't do names, people. But we will see you next week for our wrap-up episode of I Hunt. Bye. Bye.